I think the difference is integrity. I think the difference is in intention. You know, we've been talking and talking and talking forever. But if you're talking to somebody who doesn't have that basic sincerity of purpose, you're wasting your time. I'm sorry, but I'm going to say this. This president today is somebody that has that sincerity of purpose. And I believe that when we have these sincere conversations, direct conversations between the heads of these agencies, I think that it will bode well in the end for us. But it's better.
You believe that he does have the sincerity of purpose?
I have never had any reason to doubt that.
And the will to tackle corruption headlong? I
believe so.
Why then do we get these accusations that the war against corruption has been one-sided?
You know, interestingly, this is something that we've been engaged in from day one. And I'll tell you something as a Nigerian, right? You know, we have this attitude of saying, okay, they said Maokwe did this. Now, Maokwe was my schoolmate in the university. And I would say, okay, what about this guy? He did this. Now, I'm not interested in finding out whether Maokwe actually did this or not. I've always said, and I say it boldly, and I'm not going to come here and say that, for instance, more people, because this is what it's about, more people from the opposition parties are not in the net from one way or the other. But you see, if we get sincere with ourselves, we also have to find out. Now, the people that are closer to the kitchen are more likely to have meat found in their mouth, so to speak. So it really doesn't mean anything to me to say more people from the PDP, for instance, that were in power for the past 16 years are undergoing investigation. Now, I think that the allegation of one-sided war against corruption also, for me, doesn't make much sense, because at the end of the day, the question really should be, those people that are accused of corrupt practices, do they really have a case to answer? Now, if they do, why don't they answer their cases? You know, somebody said something one time, it was funny, but that is true. If I catch all my enemies who are bad guys, when I have a chance, and you have a chance and you catch all your enemies who are bad guys, probably cancels out. But that's not to say, I personally do not believe that the war against corruption is one-sided. You can point to one or two examples to say, but I still insist that if the people who are under investigation have a case to answer, then let's leave the issue of the other people who have not been caught. Someday, if you keep doing wrong, someday every bad guy will have his day.
Is it a belief based on emotion, or is this a belief based on empirical evidence?
It's a belief based on practicality. You know, I just said that, okay, if Maokwe is the class monitor and she's writing names of noisemakers, I'm just trying to play into that school of thought, okay? And she writes the names of noisemakers who are my friends. Tomorrow I'm the class prefect. I'll write the names of noisemakers who are her friends.
Is that what is going on right now?
No, I'm not saying what's going on. I'm just playing into that argument. But what a more important argument is, for crying out loud, is there anybody who has been fingered that does not have a case to answer? You hear people saying, yeah, I took the money, but somebody asked me to take the money. You hear people saying all sorts of things like that. Now they're not even saying that they didn't do what they were accused of. They're trying to make excuses why they did what they did. So for me, as a patriotic citizen, anybody who is a thief should be made to answer. I don't care what party you come from. I don't care your tribe. Okay? So for me, that is what drives me. And that is what should drive every Nigerian.
I'm just a little curious. I asked you earlier, you know, how conferences like this impact the war against corruption. There's also been the question of the perception of corruption itself, especially for the everyday man on the street. We still see situations where people are extorted. We still see situations where people still have to bribe their way to do, you know, little things. How come it is that at that little level, at that interface level, you know, there's very little being felt in terms of the fight against corruption? And
that is why I say that this whole fight, I'm sorry, but we have to go back to that quote that says change begins with me. You know, the truth of the matter is that the average Nigerian sees the corruption as a them thing. It's the big man's thing. But truth is, the corruption that goes on outside government circles is huge. That's really what's bringing us down.
Outside government circles, how
outside
do you mean?
government, like you spoke about, the guy out there on the streets, the guy doing business in the market. Let's look at the issue of the fuel situation before. That whole concept of selling fuel at 86 naira, and it was never available at 86 naira, created a whole different dynasty of corruption that was going on, from the person from the fuel attendant in the filling station to the guy who comes now, the black marketer, and all that. And that's why, for me, it's important that we begin to look at those macro issues that fuel corruption. Because we all stay, okay, for instance, a lot of people focus on the politician when you talk of corruption. What about the civil servants? That's the bedrock of corruption.
But isn't that the kind of corruption that government is supposed to be fighting? Isn't it about identifying the root, the causes of corruption, and addressing them headlong? Because a lot of people, part of the criticism they have fielded against this government is that they believe that the fight against corruption is cosmetic and it's not addressing the root causes of what makes people to be corrupt or what drives people along the line of corruption.
It still goes to that issue of us getting, sometimes we leave the issues and get emotional. And maybe so, because over years we've been exposed to